6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon. I am calling to order the meeting of the Metro Council's Women's Caucus. And I will begin with the governor's executive order. Pursuant to Governor Lee's executive order number 16 regarding electronic meetings, as extended by executive orders number 34, 51, and 60, I make a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council, and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess even for this, we have to do this by roll call. So let me run through who I see is here. Council Member Aaron Evans.
Aye.
Jenny Welsh.
Aye.
Jennifer Gamble. You are muted. Councilmember Gamble. We'll come back. Councilmember Stiles.
Aye.
Councilmember Toombs.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks. That makes it unanimous. Thank y'all. I'm going to look at my agenda and welcome everyone to the meeting. There it is. All right. I have on the agenda to begin with a review of our bylaws, because technically we can't do anything else until we figured out what our rules are. We have been searching for the bylaws that were established at the last meeting of the Women's Caucus, which has been about a year ago or several years ago, and those have not yet been located. Councilmember Hauser is calling in. I'll get to her in a second. Those, I have sent out a rough draft of those revised bylaws simply by sticking in Women's Caucus where it didn't have a specific name for the bylaws, and would ask that members of the caucus, if you have received those, I don't know that we want to spend this meeting going over the fine points of those, but we do need to elect the remainder of our officers, and that the bylaws as currently drafted provide for that being. There's a nominating committee consisting of the immediate past chair, and then she would need to let us know those nominations 4 hours before the meeting, and then we would vote on them by a majority. So we have not followed that protocol. So I would open it up at this moment to discussion of whether that protocol seems appropriate, and if this group is willing to wait until the next meeting when we actually have bylaws in place to go through that process. Any comments on that? I see many hands raised, which I appreciate. Councilmember Evans.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say that I personally feel like it is appropriate to wait. And so that way we have an opportunity to review the bylaws, and then we can talk about that election process at our next meeting, especially since we have a guest speaker today.
I would agree with that. Thank you so much. Councilmember Stiles.
Yes, Chair. I'm in agreement with Councilmember Evans. Since we do have a process that is previously in place, let's follow that.
Okay, that
we don't
sounds
have to reinvent the wheel.
So I will do my best to take notes, and will appreciate other people doing so the same as well, since we don't have an official secretary yet, and we will make an official selection at the next meeting. Okay, with that, great. I would entertain the volunteering of several people to go over the draft bylaws and see if further revisions are necessary for those to be presented at the next meeting. Are there any members who would be willing to help with that effort? And I see hands of Joy Stiles and Zulfat Swara. Are those hands of volunteering?
No,
Yes,
Madam
Chair.
Chair, no, not on my account. But what I wanted to say, what I was going to suggest is, since you are chairing the meeting and conducting it, if there's a volunteer to take notes for you.
Oh,
So-
that would be much appreciated. If anybody would like to help with that, I will take that on. I will acknowledge Councilmember Stiles is, I think, having volunteered to help with the bylaws, and Councilmember Evans, your hand is up to volunteer for which?
Yes, I'll be happy to help with bylaws, but I also do not mind. I can take notes for the meeting
Okay.
today.
You're hired for both of those.
All
Thanks.
right.
All right. I will
And
consider.
Madam Chair, we are
Yes.
recording today too. So Councilmember Evans, if you get lost or something, we do have a recording to go back to.
Great. All right. That will help us then. Okay. So I'm making note that Joy and Aaron will help. And we will hold elections of officers at the next meeting when we have rules in place. That gets us to new business. And the most exciting new business is the status of women report. And for that, I would introduce Bonnie Dow, who is probably very familiar to everyone here, and would turn it over to Bonnie to tell us your involvement on the committee and tell us about the status of women report. And you should be able to unmute yourself, I think. If not, then
Yes,
I will.
can you hear me?
Great. Yes, we've got you.
Perfect.
Welcome to the Women's Caucus. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. I do know several of you, although not all of you. And I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be here, and thanks for your interest in and your support for the work of the Mayor's Council on the Status of Women, especially for the history and resolutions commemorating women's suffrage that were spearheaded by Councilmember Van Rees, approved by Metro Council, and that were so appreciated by the members of the Mayor's Council on the Status of Women. It was a real treat for us to be able to do the work that we did during the year run-up to the centennial of the 19th Amendment. So here's a little history. The Mayor's Council on the Status of Women was actually created in 2019 by Mayor David Briley, and then later was affirmed by Mayor John Cooper in anticipation of the 100-year anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment in 2020. And I have been a member of both of those iterations of the council. On August 26th of this year, Women's Equality Day, after almost a year of collaborative work, the council presented Mayor Cooper our final report with recommendations on 5 topics we determined to have the greatest potential to positively impact the status of women in Nashville, both in the near future and in the long term. The Council on the Status of Women is a large body composed of women from many different parts of the county and representing many different interests. They are too numerous to name, but I would like to recognize our leaders, Brenda Wynn, Ann Davis, and Renata Soto, who did an amazing job keeping us on track, especially given the challenges presented by the pandemic. We went virtual in March and have been virtual ever since. So we decided ultimately to make recommendations in 5 areas: workplace issues and equality, women's safety, childcare, civic engagement, and early voting. And I'll talk more about those in a moment. The recommendations we presented to the mayor were preceded by a report on the status of women in Tennessee and Davidson County. That's the report, that's the part of the report that I actually did when we presented to the mayor. And I'm going to repeat parts of it here because it provides some important context for the work of the council. And also because Council Member Van Rees expressed to me that she thought this information was especially important to understanding the need for the council's work. And I'm always happy to do what she asks. Tennessee, including Nashville, is not an easy place to be a woman. The numbers on our health and safety, our employment status, our ability to combine work and family, and our political participation lag behind much of the nation. Much of the information that follows in the next couple of minutes is drawn from the Chamber's Vital Signs report, which helpfully includes gender among its metrics, and also from the work of Think Tennessee's State of Our State report on women in the workforce. Let's start with income. Women between 18 and 34 are the largest demographic among those living in poverty in Davidson County, which means women right in the middle of their childbearing years. Yet half of families in the state depend on a female breadwinner, and in Tennessee, women make up over 2/3 of the low-wage workforce. Women in Nashville make approximately 83 cents for every dollar a man makes. Black, Hispanic, and other women of color earn even less. In managerial occupations in the county, women cluster in the lowest paying jobs. They account for only 37% of Metro government's employees. And if you're a transgender woman employed by Metro, you do not receive transgender inclusive healthcare benefits. Many women don't work because childcare is prohibitively expensive. In Tennessee, the average cost of childcare consumed 37% of a family's average household income, or 108% of a minimum wage income. Here in Davidson County, we've lost 16% of our childcare capacity measured by the number of childcare centers in the last 20 years, while the city's population grew by 21% in that same time period. The annual economic losses in Nashville due to insufficient childcare total $235 million. A shocking 98% of Nashville parents said in a recent survey that inadequate childcare hurt their work productivity and career opportunities. That cost and availability of childcare severely impede women's employment prospects is a fact. It's hard for women to make a good living here. It's hard to combine that with raising children, and it's hard to do it safely. We have a nationally recognized Office of Family Safety here in Nashville, but there is still progress to be made around women's safety by raising awareness and by devising and funding intervention strategies that prevent violence against women. Tennessee ranks 5th in the nation for the rate at which men kill women. In 2017, 90% of the 69 women killed by men were killed by someone they knew. 76% were killed by gunfire. 9 of those women were killed in Davidson County. More than half of crimes against persons are domestic violence related, and Metro Nashville police respond to a domestic violence call every 20 minutes. Again, this is all worse for women of color. One of the ways that women can make their voices heard on these issues and others that affect them is by participating in the political process, and you are all perfect examples of that. But Tennessee is actually not an easy place to do that. By almost every measure, Tennessee laws are designed to suppress the vote, particularly for young people, people of color, and new arrivals to our community. Tennessee now consistently ranks 49th or 50th in voter participation among all the states. Laws in Tennessee discouraging voting are a fairly recent phenomenon. We ranked 10th in ease of voting in 1996 and 48th 20 years later. As women represent 54% of the vote, they are the most impacted in each of these categories. Voting laws are controlled by the state and counties, but we believe there are local actions that can raise awareness around this issue. As I said to the mayor when we gave this report, I hope that we all interpret these troubling statistics as a call to action. Nashville is a vibrant and progressive city in so many ways, but women here face important challenges as they pursue economic security and healthy and safe lives for themselves and their families. My purpose was to set the stage for the recommendations that followed about what Metro and the mayor's office can do to make a positive difference in the lives of women in our city. So here's the specific recommendations that we made to the mayor. And these are just the bare outlines because I'm trying to do this all in 10 minutes. There's more specific rationales for each of these recommendations and more specific suggestions for carrying them out in the full printed report that we provided to the mayor. The first one is workplace issues and equality, and Abby Rubenfeld presented this portion to the mayor. It includes establishing a telecommuting policy applicable to Metro government employees who are able to accomplish their work from home, establishing by fiscal year 2022 a sick and vacation leave bank for Metro government employees, creating also by fiscal year 2022 a multi-year action plan to achieve pay parity at Metro government and its contractors, and finally conducting by fiscal year 2021 a study examining the cost and feasibility of offering full transgender medical benefits. Second set of recommendations is on women's safety. Diane Lance took leadership on this. I'm sure you all know Diane Lance. First of all, create an annual interpersonal violence summit staffed by Metro's Office of Family Safety that would compile centralized recommendations on interpersonal violence. Second, create targeted safe city programs to increase the safety of women at area bars, hotels, and other spaces with potential for increased risk. I just want to say this seems to me like an idea whose time is far overdue. Amplify citywide messaging and awareness around violent crime and the safety of women in the city. Ensure that services are available and programs fully funded for victims of physical and sexual abuse. Eliminate process loopholes that make it easy for those who are prohibited from possessing a firearm to possess a firearm. And finally, increasing access to justice for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking by separating criminal cases from the orders of protection in order to reduce unnecessary delay and decrease time between arrest and disposition in the criminal justice process. And I know a lot of these sound like excessively sort of procedural, but they make an enormous difference in how violence against women is handled. The third set of recommendations is on childcare. Really, it's one central recommendation, and Claudia Bonneman presented this to the mayor. That central recommendation is establishing an Office of Early Learning for Davidson County, reporting directly to the mayor. And this is something where this is one of the recommendations where there actually is a wonderful set of suggestions that follows it about how this might be accomplished and how we might include local industries and local leaders, local corporate leaders, for instance, in making this happen. And the fourth recommendation is around civic engagement. It was presented by Marissa Richmond. It was institutionalize the Council on the State of Women by establishing a permanent Metro Nashville Council on Women and Gender Equity. And by the way, Mayor Cooper agreed enthusiastically on the day that he heard the report that this would be a good idea. So I can bring that good news to you about the report's recommendations at least. Finally, the last recommendation was about early voting, specifically related to the pandemic, and it was presented by Mattia Powell. That recommendation was that the mayor promote early voting periods during his press briefings and other public engagement opportunities. And now that we are nearing the end of early voting, right? It ends on Thursday. I think I don't have personal knowledge of how much the mayor did to promote early voting, although I would assume he was a fan, right, of this recommendation. But I think that we can say, given what the early voting totals are in Metro Davidson County, that that early voting is going pretty well here. So, in conclusion, I would say that I believe that the report was a successful one. In that moment with the mayor, right, although we were all just like this on WebEx, the mayor responded in ways that made clear he understood the gravity and urgency of these issues. He asked a couple of questions. He made some comments at the end that indicated that he had been listening closely to what was said. It remains to be seen what Metro will undertake and what it's able to do in terms of concrete action on these issues. But given that the Council on the Status of Women will continue and that its members are a dedicated group of women, I have some reason for optimism. And that is certainly combined with my faith that you are a group of women that will also support the work of this body. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. That is a powerful report. And if you'll remind us again, or maybe in the Q&A, if you'll put the link where we can.
Oh, where you can find the full report.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will do that as soon as I'm able. I'm going to have to find it. But
Okay.
I think
That would be great. If you send it to me, I can send it out to the rest of the group.
That might be better. Okay.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
might work better.
That's great. That's great.
At one point,
Any other comments, Councilmember Van Rees?
I'm sorry, I just started talking.
Go right in.
I'm distracted. I'm greetings from Novi, Michigan. I'm in a hotel room. So
Oh my God.
it's like, why are you in your bedroom? It's not mine.
Okay.
Bonnie, thank you so much for all kinds of reasons. Uh, for my part in this process, starting with Mayor Briley and then with Mr. Cooper, has been to do my best to represent the Women's Caucus to the Council on the Status of Women. And until the mayor tells me otherwise, that's what I'm here to do. And so as we see in the new year, the status of women come back together to try to help implement some of these things. Any word you want me to get back, I want to be able to do that. And so I kind of serve as a bridge in between these two organizations. One of the things that Mayor Cooper did send hand-signed notes, I guess, to all the women on that particular large committee, thanking us for the time and indicating a desire to immediately look into early child care as one of the first things. And so as you review the full report, which has been given a couple of times, but trust me, I know how our email inbox can be. When it's resent out for that link, it's a rather large report that you look at that, because it seems like he's kind of drawn his attention to that as being the first thing. So any input that we can give as the Women's Caucus. The mayor's office also knows that if any legislation or resolutions or things that they want to put through from that office, that the request has been made that the Women's Caucus receive an opportunity to provide input prior to that, so you're not just kind of surprised by some sort of administrative legislation that us as a caucus has not been able to review and provide input on. So I humbly stand in that gap and hope that we can, if we're not hearing from the mayor's office, that we can push to get more results. As we know, everyone's rather distracted right now, but I think that we as a whole can be able to make that happen. Also, the presentation in its entirety that Bonnie just mentioned was recorded, and so on the Metro YouTube channel, going back to August the 18th, you should be able to find that presentation so that you can see what the mayor's reaction was and some of the other people that were involved in it, if you want some viewing. So that's available. Thank you.
It was actually August 26th.
That's right. It's 26th. That's
Yeah,
right.
no,
Thank you. Because we waited until after the
right.
Yes, the 26th.
Because there was so much happening on August 18th, because that's the Tennessee ratification day. So we did it on August 26th, which was the day that the amendment was certified in Washington, D.C. So thanks. Yeah. Thank you, Councilwoman Van Rees. I want to thank you for all the work you do, absolutely bridging these bodies. And also to say, I'm so glad that you mentioned Mayor Cooper's interest in childcare, because, childcare is an issue that has all these different sort of tendrils, I don't know, or tentacles or whatever, that stretch into so many different areas, because childcare affects whether or not women can work. It affects the kinds of jobs they can have. It has such an impact. It also affects their ability really to in some cases, escape violence, right? So the safety of your children and the care of your children makes an enormous difference in everything that we're able to do. So I'm actually sort of heartened that is an issue that the mayor has taken an early interest in.
And I'll mention that the vice mayor has set up a special committee on early childhood education as well, so we can coordinate with what's already in the works with the mayor, and I'm serving on that committee. So I just will dovetail all that. That's great. Well, it's a lot to digest. So thank you for compressing it into 10 minutes. I apologize I couldn't give you lots more time.
No, it's great.
We know where to find you.
I'm delighted to be here. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. We appreciate it. Any other comments on the report? All right, that's definitely a resource for us. So we will continue to do that. With that, I will move on to old business, going back through some of the things that we brought up at our last meeting. And I do want to mention that Councilmember Hauser is on the line. And because she doesn't have a raise hand function, she has permission to simply jump in when she wants to talk, as you know. Thank you for figuring out a way to get into the call, Councilmember Hauser. So first I want to go back to monthly resolutions. Last month was a busy month and we had the Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the domestic violence month, and we did resolutions for both of those, I think, as well as breast cancer awareness, all three. And I want to thank the council members who worked on that, at least Kathleen Murphy, Nancy Van Rees, and council members Antoinette Lee and Joy Stiles and Tanya Hancock. And if I've left anybody out, I apologize, but I appreciate the effort that went into those. My next question would be, what are suggestions for November and December? Clearly, it's ideal if we can go ahead and think about December as well, simply to make sure that we get that in since we're meeting close to the end of the month. Are there suggestions for things that are specifically timely and tied to those 2 months coming up? And I'll open the floor for discussion on that. Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you, Chair. So this year, I only was able to lightly touch on it in the resolution for domestic violence, but it's the 20th anniversary this year for the Weaver Domestic Violence Center for the YWCA. So I thought it would be nice if we did a resolution to honor them and the work that they've done.
That would be a great idea. Would that be appropriate for the second meeting in November?
That would be great. I can get that started.
All right, you're hired. Councilmember Van Rees.
Yes, the LGBTQ caucus hasn't officially indicated the Transgender Remembrance Day is November 20th. And we know that the majority of those suffering violence in our transgender community are women. And I asked fellow Council Member Benedict if I'm recalling correctly, but it seems like if the Women's Caucus would like to work on that, then we can absolutely co-sponsor that along with the LGBTQ caucus. That language is already present. I believe it's been 2 years since Council Member Withers provided that as a resolution to remember. I think we skipped last year. So if you guys would like to do that jointly, then we can work on that.
Great. Okay. And Benedict. Okay. Great. And then, so that covers November nicely. Any suggestions for December? Hearing none at this point, we in theory can do it. Do I have one? Hold on. Councilmember Hurt.
I was trying to see, because I'm thinking World AIDS Day may actually happen before our first meeting in December. Which means that we probably should recognize it at, I guess, our second meeting in November. But it's what you all think, but I do know World AIDS Day is coming up.
Okay, can we put you in charge of finding out when that is and drafting that one up?
I can interject. It's always December 1st, and the caucus is already working on that. So if we kind of want to kind of sponsor each other,
okay.
I don't want to duplicate.
Let's do that. Who could Councilmember Hurt connect with to coordinate?
Councilmember Van Rees and I usually work together on this in some form or 2 or 3 forms or fashions. But I was just thinking that it was actually before our next council meeting, because December 1st is, I was trying to think. I think December 1st is the Tuesday. I believe it is. That's why I was thinking that December 1st is the first Tuesday.
So it would need to be submitted before then. So can I put you two in charge of having that ready for that December 1 meeting.
You
Sure.
bet.
All right, that gives us something for every month. If folks have other ideas for the second meeting in December, we would have time to talk about that at the November meeting. Any other long-term plans for resolutions for next year? I would ask folks to make a list of those, and let's try to fill in the rest of the months if we can ahead of time. So we'll do that at the November meeting. Other issues that we brought up at our last meeting that we wanted to talk about, I have listed here, and there are a lot of them. One of them I want to jump over to was the report from Silent No More. We had talked about the importance of issuing a statement to them, and Councilmember Stiles has taken the lead on that, and I would turn it over to her to tell us where we are on that. Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So we have created a rough draft of the statement. And so after today's meeting, I'm going to send it out so that it can be reviewed by all of us. There are two versions of the letter. One is a statement, both are statements supporting women. One does include the MNPD incidents, but does not mention any organization, not Silent No Longer. And the other statement, as I said, it's just unilaterally, we support women. So please review each version, and then we can collectively decide which one works best for all of us. And I think that's something that can be shared next week, Madam Chair, when we have our council meeting.
Okay. And I guess we have Maria on the call. Can you, Ms. Calder, can you advise us on the mechanism for, I guess, group comment on a statement that would be presented? Are there any issues with us collaborating through that mechanism? And am I right to ask you to make that comment? You look like the most official staff member here, or do we need to do we need to check with Mr. Cooper on that?
Well, perhaps we need to check with Mr. Cooper, but I would also like to take this moment, Madam Chair, to thank Councilmember Welsh, Councilmember Henderson, and yourself for taking a look at this rough draft and coming up with the bones here. So
Gotcha.
thank you all so much.
Happy to do that. So other members, be looking for that, and we will ask for your comments and your decision on which of those is appropriate, and we will check with Mr. Cooper to make sure we're doing it in a way that that is appropriate, with the goal of having it ready for next Tuesday. And clearly that it's not a resolution, it's a statement. What would be the mechanism for presenting that? Will that be in print, or do we feel like it's appropriate to have a verbal statement made publicly?
Madam Chair, it's Joy again.
Yes.
I think we should have a conversation now as to how we want to do it. We of course can release this as a press statement, or it can be something that we speak on from the floor, or we can do an either or situation. But we definitely do need to be in agreement about how we present this information.
Yeah,
so
I would agree
I'd
with
love
that.
to open up the floor to get everyone's thoughts. How do you feel?
Yeah. Other comments from other members of the body on that?
Madam Chair, it's Emily, and I think that a public statement, a verbal statement is needed. I think that it's, anyway, I would support that.
Great. Okay. Other comments from other members? Okay. My question would be, within the council agenda format, where would we fit something that is not officially a resolution? Would that be an announcements perhaps, or thoughts on how to do that? Councilmember Stiles, is that?
Yes, I was thinking that it would be something that we could do during announcements, but maybe we wait to be towards the end of announcements when we know that we have everyone's attention, because we're about to transition into the formal meeting. So it won't be a time where there are a lot of people moving or not tuned in.
Right. That's a good point. Okay. Other thoughts on that, Councilmember Van Rees?
Yes, I believe that if the Women's Caucus made a formal request to the Vice Mayor for a personal privilege at the beginning of the meeting, that he would grant that.
Okay, we can
So
ask
it
for that.
happens after the pledge or something like that.
Okay. I will.
Madam Chair.
Councilmember Suara.
Thank you. I want to remind everyone, and maybe if we do it as a caucus, maybe we will be allowed this time. But I don't know if you all remembered after we did the resolutions on the 100 years of women's right to vote, that I circulated a statement on the issue that I had everyone sign on to, that we wanted to do as a caucus in opposition to what's going on. And part of the idea at the time, while I did that statement and I had everyone sign on, was that we were going to present it at the Women's Caucus, and I was going to present it on the floor and read the statement. The reason why that statement never got read, even though you're signed on to it, I did try to allude to it in a way just to say something, but I was told that that is not allowed. I spoke to both Director Cooper and the Vice Mayor, and the understanding is that we've never done anything like that before on council, and that doing it would just open the floor to a whole lot of things. And so, and at the time, if I do remember correctly, I was not doing it as me, I was doing it as the caucus. And that's why I had a lot of the female members sign on to that statement. And so we do have that statement already signed, already ready to go. But we were told, at least the Vice Mayor and Director Cooper at the time said we couldn't do it. For me, it did not feel right that we were celebrating women's right to vote and we were silent on something that big. Which is why we wanted to do it at that time. So I wanted to go on record that we did try to do that before. We've never been silent. All of us felt like something had to be said, and all of us signed on to say something. We just didn't have the mechanism to do it at the time. So
Right.
I'm not discouraging us from trying again, but I just wanted to go on record that this is already being started and tried. If we're not able to say something on the floor again, I think having it as a press release at least will suffice. But just be ready for that conversation.
Thank you for that information. That's helpful. My question would be, would we then be comfortable upgrading it to a resolution so that it is something we could make statements from on the floor? Any thoughts on that?
I would be fine with upgrading it to a resolution. This is Gloria Hauser.
Councilmember Hauser, thank you for that input. And I see Councilmember Stiles' hand was up, but it's gone.
Yeah, yes, I was going to say that I would be okay with that as well. If that's the best way for us to. It looks like Angie's hand, her literal hand, is up.
Her little hand is up. Okay. I need to be in a different view because I can't see that. Yeah. So yeah, let me just straw poll. If people are comfortable considering making that a resolution, knowing that we might have a difficult time having any other mechanism to make that statement, would you raise your WebEx hand and let me know that that is a preferred or an accepted way to do that?
Madam Chair, this is Angie with apologies. I do not have the option to raise my hand.
Okay.
I entered the participant code to get in, but I'm not sure why I'm not seeing.
Yeah, you're listed as a participant. Do you have the participants open?
Let's see what happens.
Madam Chair, this is
there it is.
Sorry.
Okay, yes. Was that Councilmember Benedict?
Madam Chair, yes, I'm in the car, so I'm not even sure how to barely unmute, but I am absolutely in support of a resolution.
Okay, all right. Keep your hands on the wheels. Okay,
Same for me. I'm in the car as well.
Okay, I hope y'all are all hands free. Great. All right. So that adds a whole lot of hands that I'm seeing supportive of making it be a resolution. It almost seems to be unanimous. So I appreciate that input.
Can I, Madam Chair?
So now if everyone will take your hands down, so I'll know who is asking for the opportunity to speak, and Councilmember Van Rees, you're recognized.
Thank you. I wasn't quite sure what to do. Is there a reason why this isn't made into the form of a letter to the editor? As I'm not having a problem with the resolution, but if whatever's in the resolution is put in the form of a letter to the editor signed by the Women's Caucus, I think that would be even more public than a resolution that's. I don't know if we had talked about that or not.
We have not talked about that. We talked about it simply as a statement. I think with the possibility of the mechanisms to come up at this discussion, which I appreciate us having. But I will move us on from this shortly. So I'm going to recognize a few more council members and then we'll move on. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Councilmember Van Rees, and I think what we've struggled with as a body somewhat, because we do not have somebody that does press for us consistently, press releases. I mean, I think we all scramble in our own way. We work hard on legislation, and then we don't even have the energy to put out a press release about our accomplishments. And so it kind of runs the gamut. I think we have some new colleagues who I appreciate very much and have a lot of great energy, and they've put a podium out in front of the courthouse and had a press conference. That was new to me. That's not something we did at all last term, not because it's a bad thing to do. It's a great thing to do, but we're kind of fits and starts. And is it a resolution that we present publicly? Is it a press release? Is it a letter to the editor? Is it and so I think not necessarily we have to begin as we intend to go, but I think it's great to talk through it, because I don't think we ever want to feel like, oh, well, this is more important, so we put a podium out in front of the courthouse, or this way we just did it as a resolution. And everybody in their own individual way is going to do it. I'm not saying we should have rules for it necessarily, right. But I think as a caucus, if we were maybe more consistent in that, it would get more kind of press attention. And because we're kind of in these pandemic times, right? Any of the resolutions that have passed haven't really been read or had a presentation. And frankly, even when they are, I don't necessarily think the press picks it up. So I think that just sort of speaks to one of the weaknesses in our office, but it may be something collectively as a group we could kind of push forward.
Right. Yeah, maybe our secretary can help do that. Okay, lots of hands up now. Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to suggest, I don't think that we are confined with this statement in an either or situation. Yeah. So if we're saying that we do this as a resolution, we can do that from the floor. I also think that this is a statement. I think our decision right now is, yes, we do a resolution, but do we also do a press release in addition, or do we decide to do a press conference where, some of us go and make this a very strong statement? My thought process is that a press conference wouldn't be a bad idea, because this has been going on for some time, and there have been several of us that have been wanting to say something. And now that we finally galvanized and created this statement, it would be good for us to have a face saying, this is where the Women of Council stand as it pertains to these.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Or email and get glanced over by the media.
Right. And
we do have some people that write press releases.
Who are they?
Thank you, Chair. I guess, and I've shared the same sentiments that have been expressed by our colleagues today. My question revolves around the statement. Having not read it, we're looking at having it as a resolution, and I totally agree. I think it's a great idea to have it as a statement, do a press conference, press release in that regard. As far as the resolution, is the statement in support of women and against sexual harassment, those things, or does it speak specifically to the incidents with the MMPD? That would be a concern if we were looking at doing a resolution, to me, not being a lawyer, but just wanting to make sure that we aren't that issue is still under investigation, and having 32 women speak out is important. But I just want to make clear what the statement for resolution would focus on.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's an excellent point. I appreciate you bringing that up. It is very general, and I'll let Councilmember Stiles answer more specifically.
Thank you, Chair. I think that in reading the statement, some of your questions will be answered, as there are two versions. So read it, and in getting the feedback, that's where we solidify this statement and which direction we want to go, and then we can make the determination of how we're going to disseminate it. But the review is the first step. Thank you.
And I appreciate Councilmember Gamble, because I think it is important for us to also hold, as I said in my comment, to the presumption, the American presumption that you're innocent until proven guilty, and we don't want to throw anyone under the bus before an investigation is completed. So I appreciate that being brought up.
And
Councilmember Welsh.
If I could follow up, I'm sorry, Chair.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Just one follow up to that. I look forward to getting the statements to read it, but I just also want to keep in mind, as we're looking at the statements when we get them, that we keep in mind that we want to show support, but not, I guess, take a side, so to speak.
I think that's an important point. Councilmember Welsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with my to do. It's all of the above. In media and marketing, things have to break into people's consciousness at least 3 times before they're even aware that it's out there. And so I think doing a press conference and a press release and a letter to the editor and a resolution is the way that we break through. I think at the last meeting, I was advocating for a statement that did not speak too specifically to MNPD and those allegations, but to our support of women in general, and the need for Metro to create a very clear and concise process to address these issues. And I think that is the important point that we need to focus on, and that is what we as a women's caucus needs to stand up for. We are making a very strong statement in support of women and the need to believe women and to treat these allegations seriously and to put them out of the realm of politics so that women's issues, these things are addressed, and there is a clear line of punishment and repercussion for when these things are proven to be true. But I think as a council, it's really strong. As a caucus for us, we really need to be very strong that we're not specific to certain issues, but that we are seeing an issue within Metro as a whole that needs to be addressed, and we are going to drive the bus to make sure that this issue is addressed now and well into the future of Metro. So I support all of as much as we can get out there to break through the clutter and let people know we are on the side of women, and we're going to change Metro because of it.
Statement. There you go. Councilmember Suara, appreciate that.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with what everyone has said, and I think that the fact that we do different things is what's going to make people remember it. The statement that you all signed on to on August 18, and it's got everybody's name, was specific to the allegations of sexual assaults in Metro. I think it's very important for us. I do understand the need to speak generally, and I think the resolution could be a general statement, but I do think that we cannot shy away from what is happening in MNPD. And I think in one of the formats that we're choosing, or whichever way we want to do it, that we do talk about what happened in MNPD specifically, because MNPD is under our jurisdiction, and I think we need to call that out specifically. I will be glad, because it seems everybody forgot about this statement for some reason, and I think maybe because we did not read it on council. I will have Rosie resend it out again, and those that are working on either resolution or another statement can see if this could be attached to it in some way or the other. But we did, I kept saying that because I think I've seen a lot of allegations saying that Metro never, council members were silent. This statement was signed by all women on the council on August 18. And it was a very strong statement on what is happening in MNPD. And so I recycle that, but let's do all of it so that at least it doesn't look as if it's a silent statement, that it's very loud and clear what our position is.
And I would agree wholeheartedly with what Councilmember Suara just said. That's basically what we do with the Minority Caucus, is have a press release to go out outlining we have, as well as a press conference if necessary. And I think, too, that we need to specifically address what's happening in MNPD. So we will let our female constituents know that we stand together and that we're going to not stand silent like so many of other male leaders have done thus far. And I think it's our responsibility to do that. I understand being politically correct, but we've got to be morally correct in the things that we do as well, especially when it comes to this, and legally correct. If you listen to all of those statistics that Bonnie just laid out for us in terms of the inequalities that we have, then this is a time that we should definitely stand up for things that we know that are right. So thank you.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair. Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, now. Okay. I just wanted to reiterate my original statement. There are two versions of this statement. When you receive it, you can review them both and make a determination, provide your edits, and also in sending it back, provide your feedback as to which one you would like to use. I understand we have a variety of perspectives. I do concur we do need to be specific, hence why there is one that is about MNPD, but I also understand the desire to be more broad. So look at both of them, review them, and then that's our opportunity to make the decision. I do think we ourselves have been silent for way too long. So let's just figure out what we're going to do and then move forward. I think we've had very productive and progressive conversation today.
Yeah, thank you for giving us that option. I would like to ask if there's someone who can do some fact finding on where those investigations are. I think it's important for us to know, because we have these different perspectives, if there is any data at this point to support the allegations, or if they are still all 35 allegations. I'm a little nervous about making a very strong statement until we've allowed. I think we need to, in general, say that the process should be moving forward. I appreciate what Councilmember Gamble has said, and I see her hand back up, so I'll let her speak, but I just wanted to throw my opinion in there as well. Councilmember Gamble, then Councilmember Welsh.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll be happy to follow up on that to find out where we are in the investigation, because in addition to the Public Safety Committee, also with the new Public Safety Committee that has been formed recently by the Vice Mayor, that is one of our priorities as well. So I'll follow up on that.
That would be great. Thank you for looking into that. Councilmember Welsh.
Actually going to volunteer to help, but Jennifer has stepped. So Jennifer, if you need any help with that, I am happy to follow through with that. And I also just wanted to agree with Councilmember Stiles. There are two versions of the statement. Both of them make it very clear that we support women. And I think we can come up with a very, very strong statement as a caucus that will move this conversation forward, given the base that is already there that we can work from. So I'm looking forward to coming up with a very strong statement and making a very clear public statement that we support women and we intend to support women in any way we can in this time that we're on council, and we are willing to change policy to make sure that women and allegations such as these are always treated seriously and fairly and fully investigated. And there is a good, what's the word, denouement to whatever happens. There is, we're going to have a clear policy in place so that people don't feel that there's no place to go.
Yeah, Councilmember Evans, that may be you if you can mute yourself. Thank you. Good point. Okay, Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to say, having seen the draft of the letter, I especially appreciate it. I'm not sure if that was from you, Councilor Stiles, or Councilor Welsh, really kind of following on our initial conversation in Women's Caucus about the need for internal process improvement, like a path for women. And something that I had brought up was the awkwardness of the human relations department lead being sort of separate from HR Central. I think we're all fairly confident that if someone were in touch with Ms. Hall, those allegations would follow an appropriate path. But sometimes women have to go to a man in their department that really doesn't report to Ms. Hall. That's been especially a problem in public works, I know. And so, I don't know whether through Diane Lance or maybe back to Ms. Hall. I thought that as drafted, the letter as far as those suggestions were very good. But if we're going to take a little more time, we might be able to flesh that out a little bit more. And so I don't know, Councilor Stiles, if that was you or Councilor Welsh, but I appreciated that content. And I don't know if either of you might be able to just develop that a little further, potentially for, I guess, maybe the resolution, because maybe that happens a little more under the policy umbrella of what we might do. So
that's an excellent point. Thank you. We are about to run out of time, so I would ask this group if we feel like this is something we can truly have complete and all be comfortable with by next Thursday, or if we think we might need, to take a little bit more time, but although there is a slight risk of not dealing with this in a timely fashion. So I just throw that question out there as we continue to debate. Councilmember Stiles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the question that we have before us is, do we want this to be something that we are addressing for the upcoming council meeting? If that is the case, I would ask, today is Tuesday, if we could send it out and people can give their feedback, and Ginny and I can also kind of flesh out Councilmember Henderson's suggestion, pull all that together over the weekend, we could have it ready if we're going to do press and such next week. Just something to consider.
Thank you.
That way we're
if we want to add to it resolution. Yeah, thank you. I apologize for interrupting. If we want to add to that a resolution so that we can speak to it from the council floor, having it ready by the following Wednesday or Friday would enable us 2 weeks later to have everything happening. That's another thought. Councilmember Henderson, your hand is still up. Is that an additional request to speak? I see it go down. Thank you. Councilmember Van Rees.
Yes, I understand that the interviews for the new police chief are going to be happening later this week, and then the mayor is going to be making a decision. I think that our voice needs to be heard prior to that as a call to action for that new leadership. And so I don't want to drag our feet too much. Whatever we can accomplish within the next 7 days, I think would be very important.
Okay. Thank you for that. We'll move quickly and see what we can do. Any other comments on that? So our marching orders are for council members Stiles and Wells to work on a little bit more wordsmithing, and for everyone else to review this and weigh in on other comments, as well as which of the two versions we feel like is the appropriate one to put before us. And if we think we're ready, then we'll shoot for next week. And if we don't, then we will be aiming it at whoever has been selected, which could also be a powerful statement. So thanks for that robust discussion. It is 5:59.
Madam Chair, could I just make one statement, because I want people to understand how serious this is, and I agree with Councilmember Van Rees said we need to move quickly on this. The immediate past president of Fisk University lost his job because of allegations. And it's my understanding that those allegations have been unfounded, and the courts have dismissed everything regarding it. But because the fact that the allegations were presented in terms of what occurred, he is out of a job. And I think that we've got to understand how serious this is, and we've got to be courageous enough to hold those accountable who have been involved in such activity or alleged activity. Because, I mean, what's being said with 33 different women coming out speaking in regards to this is just, you know, it's quite a bit. And I think that if we don't address it or we don't say something, then, you know, our consent is accepted because of our silence.
Thank you. Duly noted. So it will be important to hear back from both Councilmember Gamble and the revisions from Councilmember Stiles, and for everyone to look at it promptly so that we can move on that schedule if that's what we decide we want to do. I'd like to skip some of the other old business. We'll bring it back at the next meeting and jump to two more things and then recap our action items, and then we'll adjourn. Councilmember Henderson, I think we're going to do a little bit of research on being able to continue meeting virtually. And if you have any information you can provide us on, I guess what we know so far is what the governor has said through December 31. Can you add anything to what our options are?
I apologize that I have nothing to add at this time. I was interested to hear Ms. Dow share, though, from the Council on Women, that kind of community engagement, and I think, as I understood it, kind of online, that was something important for women's, as we said last time, for women's participation in local government. You know, people with small children, caregivers, things like that can't come to the meeting. So I apologize for not having any additional information, but I will pursue that this week. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, I think we know for sure we're good through December 31, and it seems to work well. We've got great participation from 2 council members in cars and 1 in a hotel in completely other states. So I think it provides some definite options there. And is there anything COVID related that this group needs to talk about before we meet again in December? Does anyone have any items to throw out? I will again thank Councilmember Gamble and Sepulveda and Johnston for serving on the COVID Relief Foundation Committee. Any other topics that this group thinks we need to talk about at this moment? I think that
I would encourage us all to continue participating in that Thursday call. I think participation has kind of fallen off quite a bit. I think, you know, when that conference was happening more often, now that it's weekly and we're all busy, but you know, just that, my 2 cents. I hope we all can kind of get back on that call on Thursday subsequent to the press conference.
I think you're right. I think we are about to get to the most complicated part of this, and our ability to communicate with our constituents will be all the more important. Thank you for bringing that up. So with that, I will, is there any other business that anyone would like us to bring up?
Madam Chair, it's
yes,
Joy.
Councilmember Stiles.
So I wanted to remind everyone, and I don't know if everyone is aware of this, the health department is doing some PSAs, and I did one on the proper wearing of a mask, that it covers your nose and your mouth. And if you can go down to the health department, they can record you, and it's only about a minute and a half, perhaps. I'll use on our social media to encourage all of our constituents to be very mindful as we go into the double whammy of the flu and COVID-19. This is a dangerous season we're moving into, and as many times that we can get the word out to remind people, it's not enough to have a mask on that's a chin strap or just a mouth guard. We have to wear it properly so we're protecting ourselves and we're protecting others. So if you have an opportunity, reach out.
Excellent point. Okay, I'll add that on the COVID related things. Okay, so with that, action items, let me try to recap, and I'm going to ask Councilmember Evans to make sure you write these down because I'm not typing as I look back over things that we've said we're going to do. So Councilmember Van Rees is going to continue to be our liaison with the Council on Women and bring whatever news from that group and back to that group or the mayor's office for us. Councilmember Stiles and Evans will help me with the review of the bylaws so that we can have those ready at the next meeting, at which point we should be able to elect the remainder of the officers. Let's see. And the monthly resolutions, Council Member Van Rees and Benedict will work on coordinating with the LGBTQ caucus on the resolution on violence against, and I didn't write down what the official title is. That
it's the Transgender Remembrance Day.
Transgender
November
Remembrance.
20th.
Okay. Transgender Remembrance. Thank you. Councilmember Stiles will work on the resolution honoring the 20th anniversary of the YWCA's Center for Domestic Violence. And Councilmember Sharon Hurt will coordinate with the LGBTQ caucus on the World AIDS Day resolution for December 1. On the Silent No More statement, Councilmember Stiles and Welsh will continue working on wording. Every one of us will look at that and add our comments as well as quickly as we can. And Councilmember Gamble will get back to us on the status of the investigations for MNPD, which will help us in our decision which of those two we want to move forward with. And Councilmember Henderson will find out if there's anything else we need to know about continuing to meet virtually. I hope to goodness that we will be able to do that at least until there is a good vaccine available to every one of us. Just my 2 cents. All of us have been encouraged to participate in the Thursday conference call and to go to Metro Health and make a PSA on issues important to the COVID-19. Are there any other action items that I have forgotten to mention? Councilmember Stiles, I see your hand up. Do you wish to speak? Okay, Ms. Dillon. Last item I have is our next meeting would land on November 24th, I think, which is the week of Thanksgiving. Does the group have opinions on whether we should try to meet then or look at a different date?
Madam Chair, could we look at a different date just in case some people are traveling and maybe in areas where they don't have great reception?
That's a good point. So we could move later a date, which is the Monday after Thanksgiving. Is that correct? On the 30th, or we could go earlier in the week, which is the 16th. Any opinions on that? I think if we go to the 16th, we get into council committee meetings. So that's tricky. So the question is the 23rd or the 30th more likely to run into people traveling? Any comments?
I think the 30th would work better than the 16th since we will run into the committee conflict.
Actually, I believe that this is goofy. December 1 is our next meeting, and so the 30th will also be committee meetings.
So it looks like the 3rd is probably going to be the best.
Yeah.
3rd or 24th.
All right, let's go with the 24th. So it's that Tuesday. Let's stick with that 24th, forgiving anyone who can't make it. We will understand. And those of us who do make it will simply volunteer those who aren't there for things, since they're not there to defend ourselves. Does that sound like a good starting point? If people come up with different ideas, let me know and we'll adjust accordingly. For the moment, we'll tentatively schedule our next meeting for November 24th. Any other items to come before the group? If not, then we are adjourned. Good meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.